Oh my god! Like, I gotta admit, this is some savage shit right here. But the fact that they're realistically using bodies as shields and everything, man, Beryl's gloves, like, got thrown off. Not that he hasn't thrown hands and had some violent tendencies in this show when he's needed to, but this is like the most deadly this show's felt, hands down. So today we're breaking down Old Country Bumpkin episode 11. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, show your support, consider subscribing if you're new around here, and yes, we do have the full live reactions over on my Patreon exclusively if you're so interested, so let's jump into this. Now, we need to take a moment to appreciate that we have an MC who's not only acting, but he's also really flexing just how good of a character he's been up to this point. And it's a twofold point. Often with these types of shows, your MC would remain ignorant, they would remain clueless or dense, or they would remain willfully just stupid. Because, you know, I'm not gonna suspect my former student could be doing nefarious things. And it really wouldn't be an issue if the character wasn't acknowledging weird things. And in the previous episode, he immediately was like, huh, you know, that's interesting. Rose over here is, she didn't need to kill that guy. She would normally pull her punches, you know what I mean? Like, that's not, huh, okay. And then throughout this episode, you know, similar things where he's like, huh, you know, she doesn't want to stick around. I guess she doesn't want to sightsee. You know, he had enough suspicion. But I think if you've seen enough anime, you're used to these types of characters, especially the kind of older Osen characters where it's like, oh, I'm just gonna turn a blind eye. And sometimes that's fine because they use it for comedic purposes, and I find it funny because they acknowledge the character's just stupid. But they don't really acknowledge Beryl as stupid. They acknowledge him as ignorant because he's, you know, he was an old country bumpkin. He lived in a small town for most of his life. So yeah, his worldview's a little skewed on what is and isn't powerful. But in terms of knowing people, that's not an element they've established Beryl should be ignorant for. So the fact that by the end of this episode, not only did they have multiple moments where the buff guy in the last episode got kind of like sucker punched and the one guy ran away, it was very clear that they noticed who they were. I was also expecting he would say anything. No, apparently he exposed it to everyone that needed. Like, hey, I recognize that person who's the former commander. Just kind of be aware. The fact that they're not trying to make characters seem stupid is just so refreshing, but the fact that by the end of this episode, he's like, hey girl, what's going on? Like, do I expect that he wants to slit her throat or he will kill her? No. Do I expect that he's going to win and she's going to have to submit and expose whatever crime she's committed? Yes. But the fact that he's taking action, he's taking authority, and he's not acting like you would normally associate a character in his position to do is fantastic. But on the second point, just to see how his character has been, he has obviously been very strong, but the idea that this really flexes he's been pulling his punches. Now, a lot of the times throughout the show, he's been like, oh, you know, if character didn't do that, I would have lost. Like, he definitely undervalues himself, given that he can recognize strength. But the fact that if you compare the last fight in the last episode to this one, he wasn't fighting to kill. He was fighting to obviously stop and, you know, obviously they'd question. But after seeing that not only are they there to kill them, they also will just kill themselves anyway if you capture them. This was a completely different fight. Right away, he was skewering fools. He was cutting them down like they were sticks of butter. Now, does it make him seem like a psychopath, like he has no moral compass or something? No, no, no. It's simply, it was a fight life or death. And the fact that it took like 11 episodes for him to get to a point where it felt like he just immediately was going for kills rather than wounding or stopping people, I really respect Beryl as a character. I think they're doing a hell of a good job. And just the idea of the betrayal, it's making a lot of sense. And I'm glad they established the hierarchy of this world in terms of like, hey, Pope in the church, #1 top power in the world. Next, it's like the royalty, the government. So basically what's being implied is that the other prince, the prince's brother, is most likely wanted like on the throne or like next in line. So if you eliminate the guy who probably doesn't have the complete devotion, loyalty, yes master to the church like probably the younger brother has, you know, it's understandable because while even though the Pope and everyone is at #1 power, if you eventually have a king who doesn't completely see eye to eye with the church, even if the church has more power than the king, they still could cause disruptions to their grand plans and whatever they want to do. But you install a prince who is mostly on the same level, or at least just says, yeah, I agree with what the Pope says. I can see where they're going with that. I did see some people skeptical of the prince last week, like, oh, what if the prince, it's kind of weird that, they pulled over to do this or that. But after learning what we learned about the prince, if there's gonna be another rug pull moment, it's gonna be that the princess is behind it, because there's no reason why the prince would want to kill himself or kill the princess if he agrees with the church anyway, unless the princess completely disagree. I don't, you know what I mean? Like there's that too. But either way, great ass episode. It's a shame we didn't have much Mue, because that is always the best part, but they did give us a little bit. And honestly, the fact that they just flexed she's like, hey, this clearly is a conversation I'm not supposed to hear, so I'm going to go get the groceries for today. I love her. She's just fantastic. It's going to be interesting what they do with Rose, because it's hard to imagine she just gets a slap on the wrist, right? But at the same time, if she doesn't do anything specific, right? Like, there was an assassination attempt that she was involved with, but depending on how they write it, it is possible that she just gets, like, a minor punishment if she shows remorse and it was against her will. Which they've already flexed that she clearly cares about children. And if you go in the previous episode, there was a moment prior to the whole jumping attack. I think it was, like, around a bridge moment where she was looking down. She could seem visibly like something was going to happen and she felt regret for it. So there is a way out for her, but it's definitely more interesting having the act of betrayal from a former student than just saying, here's the new baddie, because this is a personal connection. And I mean, given Beryl's like super calm demeanor at the end of the episode, it doesn't give me the impression that he's heartbroken. He's like, probably some bullshit happened here, but I'm sure we can resolve this. But depending on how far she goes, sometimes you can go too far gone there. But either way, great ass stuff. It's nice to have a character like Beryl who does fit in the archetype of the kind of dense older character who doesn't know his own potential, but at the same time show him not as a complete moron, but just, the show's called Old Country Bumpkin. He's just like, he's some old guy from the sticks, man. Like, that's what they're trying to get across. And when you throw him into the big city, yeah, he's going to be ignorant to a lot of stuff, but he also can recognize talent. And I mean, given that fight, there was talent every which way. It wasn't just Beryl cutting down goddamn arrows. They all were, and the 3D looks incredible. If they give us a season 2 and there's not a single 2D fight, it's all in the 3D that they do, I would not be complaining. That shit is amazing, and I love the weight. I love when they did some slow-mo. Everything about it looked incredible, and I'm just sad this is almost over, but goddamn, I've said it every single video, like, for the past 7. This shit doesn't adapt the manga, and people are still commenting how it's not inaccurate, and I'm like, my blood pressure. You let me know your thoughts down below. What did you think of the episode? How do you think they're going to resolve this betrayal? Let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell. And yes, Patreon, full live reactions over there exclusively. And I also give a personal video shout out to all of my patrons. So today we got D-Chip, Old Do, Just a Micro, Lorena Frazier, Daniel, Marcus Rugerts, Elias Cortez, Jose Raffle Caster, and we also have Arctic Fox. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care. You'll have a good one.